action video a chance to explain regarding the Supreme Court ruling. Now, well, we all know in the Philippines, the Supreme Court is the highest judicial and its decisions are binding on all other branches of government, including the executive and legislative branches, once the decision becomes final and executory. Now, there's a question. Can the legislative branch, of course, senators, refuse to follow a Supreme Court ruling? The answer is no, because under the doctrine of separation of powers and check and balances, each branch has its own powers, but no branch can defy a final and executory ruling of the Supreme Court. Once the Supreme Court decides a matter with finality, it becomes the law of the case and must be obeyed by all. Under the constitutional basis, 1987 Philippine Constitution, Article 8 of Section 4.3 states that no decision of the court shall be reversed, modified, except by the court itself. And also in the Article 8 and Section 1, it states that judicial powers includes the duty of the courts of justice to settle actual controversies involving rights. And also in Article 8, Section 6, it states that the Supreme Court shall have administrative supervision of the courts and the personnel thereof. Thus, no senator, not even the entire Senate, can legally ignore or nullify a Supreme Court ruling that is final and executory. Another question is, are senators criminally liable if they refuse to follow a final Supreme Court decision? Well, possibly yes, especially if their refusal obstructs justice, prevents implementation of the decision, or violates their official duties. This could result in criminal, civil, or administrative liabilities depending on the nature of their action. Now, what are the relevant laws and possible criminal liability? Well, here are some specific laws and provisions that may apply. Number one, in Article 231 of the Revised Penal Code, obedience or open disobedience, okay, states that the public officers who shall openly refuse to execute the judgment, decision, or order of any court. What's the penalty? It's going to be arresto mayor, 1 month and 1 day to 6 months, plus possible removal from the office. Well, another thing is the Article 233 of the Revised Penal Code, refusal of assistance. Any public officer who, having for any reason been required by competent authority to render assistance to the administration of justice, shall fail to do so. Another thing is the Republic Act number 3019, Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, Section 3E, causing undue injury to any party by giving unwarranted benefits or refusing lawful duty. Section 3F, neglecting or refusing to act without a just cause. So if senators refuse to implement a decision that affects public interest or cause damage, this can fall under graft. And last thing is the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials, RA 6713. So, under this Republic Act, in Section 4B, public officials shall uphold the Constitution and the law. And also in Section 4C, they shall at all times respect the rights of others and act with justice, sincerity, and responsibility. Violation may lead to administrative and criminal charges. Okay, now the point is, can the legislative branch disregard the final SC ruling? No, the Constitution mandates compliance. So can senators be liable for refusal? Yes, if it leads to obstruct of justice or abuse of authority. So what are the law applying? Number one, the revised penal code, Article 231 and 233, the Republic Act 3019, anti-graft, and also the Republic Act 6713, ethical standards. Okay, so let's say in this issue, let's clarify more things on this issue. Um, let's say the Supreme Court final and executory ruling versus the legislative finance or of defiance. These are the tailored explanation on this. The authority of the Supreme Court. Let's talk about this first. Well, under the 1987 Constitution of the Philippines, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of all justiciable disputes and its decisions. So, are binding on all other branches of government, including the legislative, Senate, and House of Representatives. Cannot be overturned or ignored except by constitutional amendment or another SC ruling. Of course, the constitutional basis of this is the Article 8, Section 4.3. No decision of the court shall be reversed or modified except by the court itself. And another thing is the doctrine of the judicial supremacy. This doctrine means that when the Supreme Court interprets the law or constitution, that interpretation becomes part of the law of the land. It must be respected and followed, even by Congress. To defy it is to defy the constitution itself. So, if the senator refuses to comply, what's the legal consequences? Well, we heard that there are four senators, or maybe even five senators, refuse to follow a final SC ruling. Their action may fall under criminal, civil, and administrative liabilities, depending on the intent of the effect. Uh, so here's how. A criminal liability under the Revised Penal Code, RPC, Article 231, open disobedience. A public officer who shall openly refuse to execute the judgment, decisions, or order of any court. And there are the elements of this. One is they are a public officer. A senator qualifies, of course. So number two is there is a lawful court decision. Number three element is they openly refuse to enforce or comply with it. And the penalty of all of this are the arrest summarior, 1 to 6 months imprisonment, and possibly disqualification from public office. And otherwise, the Article 233, the refusal of assistance. Public officers failing to assist in executing a lawful Supreme Court decision may also be punishable or punished under this. Another thing is the administrative and ethical liability under the Republic Act 6713, Code of Conduct and Ethical Standard for Public Officials. Under this Republic Act, Section 4B, public officials must uphold Constitution and laws. Section 4C, it must act with responsibility and integrity. Violation may lead to suspension or dismissal, filing of ethics complaints before the Senate Ethics Committee, and ombudsman investigation for misconduct. The other one is the anti-graft and corrupt law. the Republic Act 3019, Section 3E or F, may apply if the senator's refusal cause undue injury to a party and they knowingly refuse to act without just cause. So this can result in criminal charges punishable by imprisonment and perpetual disqualification from the office. And well, can the Senate as an institution override the Supreme Court decision? Well, absolutely not. The legislative branch cannot vote or agree to ignore a final decisions of the Supreme Court. Doing so would be, of course, unconstitutional and a form of usurpation of judicial power, and also possibly an impeachable offense if done by constitutional officers. Here's the precedents and a real world example. There are cases in the Philippines history where defiance of an Supreme Court ruling led to serious consequences. Number one, uh, Judge Eliezer de los Santos, the year 2003, dismissed from service for failing to enforce Supreme Court ruling. Number two, Mayor Junjun Binay, the year 2015, ignoring ombudsman or Sandiganbayan orders, resulted in administrative and legal consequences. So, if senators now knowingly refuse to implement the final Supreme Court ruling, it may serve as a ground for a complaint before the Ombudsman, Senate Ethics Committee, or even a plunder or graft case depending on the context. So hope you guys really realize the consequences of defying the Supreme Court ruling. I hope you understand that. Thank you.